All right, hello. This is Quisha Brown coming to you live. I was asked a question that I'm going to talk a little bit about for a few minutes today during a presentation I did over the past week. Um, so the question was determining key metrics for measuring social impact. Again, the question was related to determining key metrics for measuring social impact. Now, first, let me just start by saying there was a time when when I was looking for metrics to measure the social impact that my programs were having. As many of you know, I spent many years working in the nonprofit industry in various capacities, the latest one being as a director. And I would just use the metrics that were provided to me by the either the government or the funder that was funding the program, or just from some other outside source. Nothing directly related to the community I was working with or the people that I was serving. So we all know that communities are different. No community is the same. The needs of people that live in various communities vary based on the community that you live in. So using that one size fits all approach, especially when it comes to choosing the metrics to measure social impact, does not work in my opinion. And so that is another reason why I developed the progressive outcome scale logic model, because we need a way of measuring social impact that is more related to the people that we are looking to serve and looking to help. So with that said, what you're looking at right now, and I made it pretty big because I wanted to really hone in on parts of this, but this is the progressive outcome scale logic model. And I'm just going to kind of zoom out for a second just so you can see that this is publicly available. This is actually the housing industry logic model that I developed a couple years back, and actually wrote a very short practical guidebook entitled Using the Progressive Outcome Scale Logic Model in the Housing Industry. This particular example I had created for the housing industry, like for organizations that oversee various housing industry services, such as community development corporations and other entities that run and operate affordable housing units. So I want to go down to the second page here. Now, these are all the key focus areas for impact, but I'm just going to stay up on affordable housing just so I can kind of explain how it works when you are, and how much better it is, and so much easier to measure when you pull your metrics or the indicators that you're measuring directly from the people you're servicing, as opposed to using something that's just been handed to you and say, here, measure this for your community. We don't know the people in your community, but here, you can measure this. That doesn't work in most cases. It makes it very difficult to measure your outcomes. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger again so we can see. So affordable housing. First of all, if you're not familiar with the progressive outcome scale logic model, it always starts off with a goal for each category. So this category is affordable housing. So the goal is here. And then the targeted racial inequity problem that it is attempting to address is listed here. Now, the indicators are what leads to the metrics that we'll talk about in just a second. But these indicators are meant to directly address the problem and also to help reach the goal. So the indicators, the question I received was, why are your indicators so specific? Why are they so specific? So let's take a look at the problem here, and then we'll look a little bit more at why they're so specific. So according to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, there are nearly 1.2 million occupied public housing units that are under the management of 3,300 public housing associations. That's a lot. With each housing association averaging around 364 units to manage. With so many housing units to manage, it can be difficult to keep housing units safe, livable, and functional enough to accommodate those who live in them. So, with so many of them, it's difficult for the U.S. Department of Housing to keep track and to really oversee and be sure that they are all, let's look at the goal, safe, stable, and quality affordable housing. It's difficult. So, in order to reach that goal and to address that problem, we need some indicators that are specific. What is considered safe? What is considered affordable? What's considered quality? Well, for answers to these questions, Humanistic Care, which is the organization that developed the progressive outcome scale logic model, that Humanistic Care took to the residents living in affordable housing communities. And we asked them, what do you consider to be safe, stable, and quality housing? And so they began to share with us some of the issues and challenges going on in their housing units and share with us that these particular things are things that would make their housing more safe, more quality, and more affordable. And they have a right to be safe and live in quality housing, regardless of whether they're in poverty or as long as they can afford to pay for where they live, but it's not fair that they have to pay for where they live and live in very unsafe and unhealthy conditions. And this kind of hits home for me. I'm not going to go into my story, but I have lived in a place, I mean, as a single mom living on welfare 23 years ago, I used to come home and just have to put on boots to walk through my own apartment living room because the rain would come inside and the landlord would never fix it. Me and my child were constantly sick. It's just people have to live in these conditions and it's just not right. So when we asked several people living in various housing conditions, I'm going to scroll down because I put them in a list. I believe they're all included in here. Going down. What was shared with us was, here it is. So we identified common themes from the feedback that we received, right? And so these were some of the common themes that came up in our conversations. People shared about the lighting of the exterior of the building, in the parking areas and in the hallways. They talked about broken locks on doors and windows, all unsafe. Building management never performed semi-annual quality checks. Rent and utilities are still not affordable based on their current income and expenses. Unreliable access to running water, adequate ventilation and heat, all of those were major issues that were discussed. And so now we go back to why are they so specific? So let's go back up and we'll take a look. So those were some of the things that were shared. Now, what was shared was directly put into indicators for the logic model. And these indicators, sorry, this is live. These indicators are what turns into our metrics. So let's say the U.S. Department of Housing or another housing entity that oversaw various affordable housing organizations that run these affordable housing units. And let's say that they were held accountable for ensuring that their buildings met all of these requirements, starting with provision of good lighting on the exterior of the building, in parking areas and in hallways. You see, that was taken almost verbatim from what was shared from the people living in these affordable housing units. Maintain sturdy and well-functioning locks on doors and windows. Conduct at least semi-annual quality safety checks of the property. Residents pay no more than 30% of gross income for housing costs, including utilities. And so the list goes on and on. And I think there are about 12. There are about 12 there. So there may be more, there may be less, really depending on what the people say. What do the people in the community share as most needed? All right, so now quickly, how do you measure this? So the progressive outcome scale logic model measures progressively as those particular indicators are attained by the affordable housing units. So they're in stages, and up at the first on the first page of the logic model, you'll see where the short, intermediate, and long term are all stated in stages. And so those stages simply mean that stage 1 is where less than 70% of the indicators have been accomplished. Stage 2 is 70 to 90% of indicators have been accomplished. And then stage 3 is just about all of those indicators have been accomplished. And so when we go back down, we'll go all the way over to the right and we'll see our intended iSmart outcome. So iSmart, what is that? iSmart is simply a SMART goal. But with the I added, it's just to indicate that it's a social goal, which is meant to create impact. So the impact of all of this is that 100% of affordable housing in named places are considered safe, stable, and quality, as defined by the people most impacted and living in that targeted community. And so that's all for today. I'm looking forward to the next question I receive and seeing you all or talking to you all again next week. So every Tuesday, be sure to subscribe and you'll be notified. And if you have a question that you'd like me to answer, feel free to put it either in the comments or you can email it to support@humanisticcare.com. Thank you so much, and you have a great day.